Sleep is the foundation of your health, and chances are, if you've clicked on this video, you want to know how you can improve it. Well, you're in the right place, because I'm going to give you a number of neuroscience-based protocols to improve the quality of your sleep and help you fall asleep faster. If you do have any unanswered questions by the end of this video, then comment them and I'll answer them for you. Okay, I want to start by addressing a misconception. Most people seem to think that good sleep is just about getting enough, but that's not true, because it's just as important to make sure that when you are sleeping, the sleep you're getting is good quality. Good sleep is when you spend as much time as possible in the REM and deep sleep phases of sleep, which is where all the important processes of sleep actually occur. You want to minimize the time spent awake, and you want to maximize the quality of these two phases when you're in them. One person who sleeps 7 hours could actually get more actual time in REM and deep sleep than another person who sleeps for 9 hours. And the amount of sleep that people need varies too, depending on things like age. You need more when you're younger. You might want more if you're trying to grow muscle or recover from a lot of physical training. And you might find you need more in the winter months. But in general, you'll probably find that your sleep sweet spot is somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. So follow the protocols I'm going to give you in this video to make sure that your sleep is of the best quality possible. And then you can kind of fine tune the amount of sleep that you want to get. One quick tip is to try and sleep in a multiple of 90 minutes. This is because throughout the night, you sleep in about 4 to 6 cycles, and you want to make sure you wake up as close to possible at the end of one of these cycles, because if you wake up in the middle, it makes you feel groggy and exhausted in the morning. The absolute most important thing you can do for your sleep is make sure you maintain a healthy and regular circadian cycle. So what makes us feel awake in the morning is a small pulse of cortisol and adrenaline, which are released into our body, and that kind of makes us feel alert and awake as it rises over the next few hours. Now, this pulse also sets a timer for the release of melatonin, a hormone which makes us feel tired, and we need it to be able to fall asleep. Now, it's very important that this cortisol pulse occurs as soon as possible in the morning after waking, because this will make sure we feel awake and alert in the correct hours, and then we actually have melatonin released so that we can fall asleep when we want to in the evening. The first way we can do this is make sure we simply wake up at the same time each day. Regularity is very important. But surprisingly, the biggest thing we can do for this is to get sunlight outside within 60 minutes of waking up. This is because we have a certain group of cells in our eyes which aren't involved in vision and seeing. They're just there to detect low-angle morning sunlight. And when they're stimulated by this light, they communicate directly through neurons to a central clock in our brain which sets the circadian cycle for the rest of our body. Light is the only thing that has this direct connection, so it's very powerful to leverage this. It's important that you actually go outside to get this sunlight. Getting sunlight through a window is actually 50 times less effective than going outside for this. If for some reason you can't go outside to get this sunlight, or you wake up when it's dark, what you can do is use a very bright artificial light which simulates daylight. You can get daylight lamps, I have one here, or a source of very bright blue light, and turn this on and use it until you can go outside. As well as our circadian cycle that I mentioned, there's a second mechanism involved with sleeping. Now, this involves a molecule called adenosine. When we wake up, our adenosine levels are low, and they'll slowly rise throughout the day. And as adenosine levels rise, it increases a kind of drive and thirst for sleep. Now, the way caffeine makes us feel less tired is it binds to adenosine receptors as a competitive inhibitor, which prevents adenosine from having its effect. This makes caffeine a very useful tool for staying awake and alert throughout the day. But it also means later in the evening, if caffeine is still bound to our receptors, it can make it very hard to fall asleep. And even if it doesn't, it still will ruin the quality of your sleep. Now, people will react to caffeine differently because its effect very much depends on how our bodies metabolize it. But generally, its quarter life, which is the length of time it takes for its concentration to half twice, is 10 to 12 hours. So I'd suggest trying to avoid taking it at least 10 hours before you go to sleep. And similarly, this isn't mentioned very much, but it's actually useful to avoid taking caffeine 90 to 120 minutes after waking up, to avoid caffeine interfering with the natural process of waking up that occurs in those first hours. Napping. Some people love naps, other people find that when they take them, they find it harder to fall asleep in the evening. This is because after sleep, the concentration of adenosine in our body reduces, and naps can do this. So if you nap in the afternoon, you may find your adenosine levels are low and you don't have the same thirst and drive for sleep in the evening. If this happens to you, I'd say Don't nap, avoid naps. There are other things you can do, which I'll discuss in a different video. But if you do like naps and you find that you can sleep fine after taking them, limit them to 90 minutes, which is one sleep cycle. Alcohol is an interesting one because many people very wrongly misconstrue it as a sleep aid. This is because alcohol is a sedative, which means it makes us lose consciousness quicker. But losing consciousness is very different to reaching sleep. Alcohol doesn't actually help us reach sleep faster, but it can harm the quality of your sleep a lot. Just getting tipsy, for example, having 1 glass of wine in the evening, it's been found to fragment your sleep, which means you wake up a lot, you don't get your proper healthy cycles of sleep, and it severely reduces the quality of REM sleep, such that the release of growth hormone into your body throughout the night can be sliced in half. So try and avoid alcohol if you can in the evenings, and don't use it to fall asleep. Another interesting way to get better quality sleep throughout the night is to make sure that your room stays the right temperature. So generally our bodies need to cool about 1 degree Celsius and stay cool throughout the night to sleep properly. Now while we're asleep, we actually have this interesting subconscious behavior that regulates our sleep. When we want to cool down, we'll stick a hand or a foot out of the bed and we'll use the cool air in the room to cool ourselves down. And then when we want to increase our temperature, we pull our limbs back under the sheets. So aim to keep your bedroom between 15 and 19 degrees Celsius throughout the night. You've probably been told to avoid blue light in the evening. This is true, but you should actually be avoiding any bright light in the evening. This is because light inhibits the production of melatonin, which, as I said earlier, you need in your body to be able to fall asleep. And any color of light can do this. So generally between 10 PM and 4 AM, you want to dim lights as much as possible and avoid any bright light. I would suggest that an hour before you want to go to sleep, you dim all the lights in your room and then don't go on your phone. I know you hear this all the time, but it really is terrible for your sleep. It's the hour of scrolling is not worth it. Even wearing blue blocking glasses or turning the blue light setting on your phone, it doesn't work. It's going to harm your sleep anyway. So really make an effort to avoid bright light in the evening. You will also get a much better quality sleep if you make your room as dark as possible throughout the night. You can do this by buying blackout curtains and turning off any sources of artificial light, or you could buy a sleep mask. And on a similar note, if there are lots of noisy distractions near you, wear sleeping plugs, it will help a lot. You can actually offset the harmful impact that bright lights have in the evening by viewing late afternoon sunlight about an hour before sunset. This is because it will tell your circadian clock that it's the end of the day. And this is actually found to reduce the sensitivity of your retinas, which can offset to some degree the harmful impact that bright light has in the evening. Following the previous protocols I've mentioned will do a lot to make sure you actually feel tired and ready to go to sleep at the correct time in the evening. But there are a few more things you can do to help yourself wind down and feel sleepy. You might have noticed that eating a lot of carbohydrates makes you feel very tired. There are a few reasons for this. Probably most notably is that carbohydrates spike your insulin, and then spiking insulin increases the uptake of tryptophan and serotonin in your brain, which are both hormones needed for sleep. So we can leverage this by eating a very carb-heavy meal in the evening. But eating too close to your bedtime will disrupt your sleep. So try to have your last meal about 3 hours before going to bed. The next thing you can do is have a warm shower. I know I'm a strong advocate of cold showers, but having a warm shower, not hot will dry out your skin, but a warm shower in the evening can help you wind down, and it actually will cool your body down, which is needed, as I mentioned, to initialize sleep. In the last hour of being awake, you want to aim to do something relaxing. You can listen to music, read a book, journal. It has to be something that relaxes and calms you. So find what works for you and stick to it. Okay, as a disclaimer, you should always speak to your doctor first before adding any new supplements into your routine. The first one is magnesium. So a deficiency of magnesium is associated with insomnia and poorer quality sleep. However, if you're not deficient already, taking extra magnesium won't help you. The two forms to take it in are magnesium threonate or magnesium bisglycinate. It's worth noting about 5% of people do get an agitated stomach from supplementing magnesium, so stop if you notice this happening to you. The next one we've got is called GABA. GABA is an amino acid found in your brain, and it's known as the calming neurotransmitter because what it does, it reduces nerve cell activity, and it also helps us in the transition from the wakefulness state to the state of sleep. And supplementing with GABA has been shown to be very effective at promoting deeper sleep and easing anxious feelings at night. Apigenin, which is the active ingredient in chamomile tea, induces sleepiness by slowing the mind down. Finally, we have L-theanine, which relaxes you and aids sleep through a number of processes, probably most notably by boosting the levels of GABA in our body. Though an important note, do not take this supplement if you have overly intense dreams, you sleepwalk, or you have night terrors. If you think this sort of content could be useful to you, then consider subscribing.